Alright. Oh man. Time in Vegas was spent very shortly. Spent about a week there. I remember when I got there. I was dropped off in the at the MGM Grand Casino. And the guy who dropped me off, he hung out with me for a bit after I got there. He gave me $20. You know? It was pretty cool. He drove me from Reno to Vegas in one day. Because I got stuck. Like an idiot. Yeah, Vegas was a fun time. I don't miss it though. Not gonna lie. Wouldn't go back even if I had money. The place was sad. You could feel it in the air. You walk around, the streets are littered with like those call girl cards, their information and the service they work for and all that crap. It was so... I felt like they were being more dehumanized than I was, someone who lived on the sidewalk, you know? Let's figure out what we're doing here before I continue on my little walk through my brain, as I would say. I don't know. Being homeless wasn't terrible. Wasn't the worst thing I ever been through, that's for sure. Far from it, really. But I don't know. The whole reason I was homeless was because I was a stupid teenager. I got scared of the law and I ran and tried to hide across the country. You live, you learn, right? Grow up over time. It is what it is. Life's short, might as well make your mistakes young. But yeah, frankly, looking at this place and the game reminds me of how I felt about it when I was there. It was rough, man. It was so dry that my lips cracked beyond recognition. I remember going to McDonald's and my lips were scabbed shut. Went to go and eat a cheeseburger and they peeled apart. I couldn't even order. The person I was with at the time had to do that for me. It was embarrassing as hell. Walking in dirty. Couldn't talk. So dehydrated that I couldn't even pull my face apart to say a word. It was ridiculous. I never thought I'd be like that in my life. But you know. Shit happens, right? We all gotta figure our own way out. Ah, I can't use the super stim pack on my limbs. That sucks. But nah, yeah. I don't know. The whole thing started when I met this girl working at Sonic, right? She started puppy dogging me around, would not leave me alone. I thought it was kind of cute, you know? I never had anybody do that. I didn't realize until much later it was a big red flag. You know? Again, you live, you learn. We all make mistakes. But, while I was with her, I got in trouble for shoplifting. Something stupid as hell. But luckily, I was raised somewhat right and I knew how to talk to the cops with some respect. So they didn't push the charges, or press charges, but it was still on record. They dropped it to misdemeanor trespassing. And that was, I mean, that was bad enough. I had never dealt with the law before. I was always under the impression that, you know, hey, you get a chance, right? You screw up once, it's one thing, but first experience with the cops wasn't even, it wouldn't have even happened if they weren't already at the store. Like, how was that for luck? I got caught just at the right time. If I had waited another hour, there's a high chance I probably wouldn't have had to deal with them. But, you know, again, live and learn. So yeah, they caught me. The security did. They brought me in, asked me if I had anything I wasn't supposed to. I emptied my pockets. You know, probably the smartest move I could make in the position. Empty my pockets, and they sit me down, had me fill out some paperwork saying basically I'm banned from Walmart. And it's really not that big a deal. And nobody there was like freaking out on me or anything. They were all really chill. It was kind of nice. You know, not having to look down the barrel so much. They weren't putting the pressure on, so to say. But hey, I mean, they're doing their jobs. I fucked up. They had to do what they had to do. After I filled out that paperwork, they informed me, though, that the cops are already in Walmart dealing with an aggressive individual. So, since they're already there, they gotta call them over to deal with me. And there was two cops. There was an older guy, old white guy. He was kind of a dick. And there was a younger African-American fellow with him. He was pretty laid back. Could tell he was the rookie, though. Didn't really understand why I was being brought in on that. Or not brought in, but, you know, detained for it. Especially since it was less than, like, $50 worth of shit. But, you know. It's whatever. Well, the cops put me in handcuffs. Had me sit there and run through the information mill. You know, give them all my details, my ID, and all that shit. And, they let me out of the cuffs. They have me sign some paperwork. They walk me out. And my friends are standing there waiting for me. They knew what I did. They knew I got caught. They waited for me still. It was pretty nice. Even the cop made comment that I had, you know, some decent people, because half the time when this shit happens, people are gone when you come out. And it kind of sucks knowing people have to go through that. You know, I got lucky with the friends I have. Picked good ones. But nonetheless, that's the first time I got in trouble with the cops. The second time I got in trouble with the cops was like 6 months down the road from the first incident. And ironically enough, that was a happenstance too. I was sitting outside of my friend's mom's work, smoking a joint, just kind of chilling. And the cops roll up because the business we're hanging out in front of, the building's supposed to be clear in like 2 days. Like, there's not supposed to be anybody there, and they were informed of that. But the rookie got the dates mixed up. So they showed up wondering why there was people hanging out in this office when the building's supposed to be empty. I mean, it was explained to them that, you know, no, it's no big deal, everything's good. And they understood that. But, of course, wrong place, wrong time. They smelled the giggle bush. And when they smelled the giggle bush, they looked immediately at me like, oh my goodness. They knew. They knew who it was. So, well, they wanted to search me. And, they did. They found about, like, half a penner on me. Half a joint, if even that. And the cop was like, oh, pay dirt, buddy. And, yeah, I've spoken to, other people in the department about this individual, and they all said, yeah, he's the one that will do that. He will take you in over the tiniest shit. He had something to prove, you know, he wanted to make a name for himself. I understand. It was a little bit of weed, and this was back before it was legal, but, I mean, still. Like, it was less than a gram. I know, because I had a gram when I rolled that joint and I smoked half of it. There was less than a gram. But still, that was enough to violate, you know, my misdemeanor crap because it had gotten lowered for something else. Which, did not bode well in my favor, so to say. Well, after all that, I ended up going to court a few times. I got a, what was it, probation officer I had to deal with. She was really nice. She put up with my stupidity for a minute.
Yes.
And by that, I literally mean I was being dumb. Like, I got in trouble with the stuff. I should have just quit and rolled on with life. But no. No, I kept smoking it. I kept doing the thing. Because I wanted to. I said, fuck it. Life's short. I might as well enjoy myself before I go. I don't know how long I'm going to be here. Anything can happen at any time. But, yeah. So I kept making bad decisions. And eventually, through those bad decisions, I ended up missing a court date or two. And then they put a KPS out on me for my arrest for, what was it, a bench warrant? I don't remember what it's called. Failure to appear is the technical term, I believe. Or whatever the fuck. Whatever they call it whenever they write it down in their books. Failure to appear. And boom, the hunt was on. And me being kind of in the midst at this time, like, not just inhaling the Mary Jane, I was also doing a lot of other stuff that I had been doing for a while at that point. Like, you know, pharmaceuticals, inhale, all that through your nostrils. That stupid shit. I was a dumb kid. I'm not gonna defend that. But, yeah. So I was making a lot of mistakes. And ultimately, that culminated in one night where I was living with this chick that I was kind of in an on-again and off-again relationship. And, one night the cops show up. And this is like the third time they showed up to this place. I was renting a room with her. And like the third time they show up, and this time I'm out back and we are smoking, like, a lot of the stuff. Well, I'm around back and I see the flashing lights from behind the house pull up, and there's no sirens. It's dead silent, so I knew they were coming for me because they didn't want to spook me, but I saw them coming. I saw them coming. So I hopped off the back porch, ran across the backyard, and the house we were in was right next to an abandoned house. And there's a big, like, 7-foot tall privacy fence. So I jumped the fence. I jumped the fence, and I hid right in the crack of it behind some brambles that were hanging down. Pretty well obscured, in my opinion. They probably would have seen me if they came back with flashlights, but, you know, they didn't. She warded them off, telling them that I was gone. I had just disappeared. No one knew where I was and all that fun shit. Well, that was when I decided, that night was when I decided to take all my shit, everything I owned at the time, and sell it. Like, everything. I had just gotten the Battlefield 1, like, limited edition Xbox One at launch of the game. I had gotten a few different things that were really cool, really valuable to me. And, instead of doing the right thing and being a smart person, I ran from the police to Long Beach, California. I sold all my shit and got maybe $800 saved up. And then went to the Greyhound in Richmond, Virginia, bought a ticket for Long Beach, and made my way. The catch was, the girl I was staying with, she wanted to come with me. Now, I knew long before I left that this was a terrible idea. This was not gonna be a good time. Not because she was a bad person or anything, but because that's a lot of responsibility. And I'm not trying to have any. You know? Bad decisions all around. But nah. So she came. Followed me on the road. Ended up in Long Beach for about 3-4 days. Hanging out, doing our own thing. Spent all the money that we had. Because of course we did. And after that, we headed up to Berkeley. Because on the Greyhound, which was a 4-day ride, with I could not sleep at all. We weren't allowed to sleep at the terminals, and I couldn't sleep on the bus. So like I was awake for almost 4 days straight, riding over to California. So the first thing I did when we got there was call a damn taxi and get a ride to the cheapest motel in the area, which was like, it was like Oyster City Hotel or some shit. I don't remember what it was called. Something like that. But, it was a motel. I don't know. Technicalities. Not really important. But we ended up staying there, passed out for like a day and a half, woke up, did our little travels around Long Beach for a little bit. And then we found the Amtrak station. It was funny too, because we were trying to figure out the public transport, and we got on a bus, which obviously first step to learning any area is to just do it. But we got on the first bus, and we was looking at a bunch of shit, trying to figure stuff out. And one of the transit workers was actually on the bus and told us where we needed to go to get where we were going. What we needed to do to get where we were going. God, sorry guys, my dyslexia is fucking kicking my ass right now. But yeah, so we just happened to run into somebody who works for the transit depot system, whatever it is they call it in Long Beach. And she directs us in the way to go. And we end up at the Amtrak, and we ride the Amtrak from Long Beach all the way up to Oakland. Now, I don't know if anybody really understands or knows what the reputation is for Oakland City. You know, just north of San Francisco, Oakland, that one. Yeah, it's dangerous. It's very dangerous. Well, I didn't connect the dots until I got off the Amtrak at like 11 o'clock at Broadway and 12th, I think, or right down like a block away from Broadway and 12th, which is like the main strip of Oakland in like the upper class area. And as soon as I saw the Welcome to Oakland sign coming out of the Amtrak station, I panicked. I was like, oh shit, no, I know where we're at now. And like my brain flew into a frenzy. It really didn't help that like I had gotten a flip phone, and I pulled that out and I was getting ready to make a phone call, see if I couldn't get somebody to help us out. And as soon as I turn the phone on, the screen fucking dies. Like, the phone's still alive. You can still use it if you know how to navigate it without seeing what's on the screen, but I didn't. But no, yeah, the screen, the LCDs in the screen just shit themselves. So I'm sitting there in Oakland at like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning now, and got no phone, no service. The local Wi-Fi thing they have in the city is Xfinity, so, and you have to pay a subscription to use it. So I'm pretty well fucked at this point. Literally nowhere to go. No money at all. Like, other than some change we had left and a little bit of cash. And we are walking down, I think it was Broadway or Main Street, I don't know. But we were walking down the street with all these big hotels around us, and we were like, God damn, if only we could like get someone to let us just stay the night so we could collect ourselves and move on to this homeless person. Little did we know we were going to be right in their same shoes like in 3 days. But we run into this guy, And he tells me, he's like, if you give me $5, I'll give you some help. I didn't realize at the moment I was being conned. You know, still innocent, country kid coming to the big city, all that fun shit. Well, I give the dude the $5, you know, hoping, hey, maybe this guy will help us. And that was like 5 out of $13 I had at the time. I just gave it to him. You know, fuck it, right? Maybe he'll help. Well, kind of in an inadvertent way, he did. He pitched us this little story that we could tell the hotel managers to get like a free room, maybe. Like, lie, man. Tell them that she pregnant and she can't be sleeping outside and this, that, and the other. And the only problem with this is the girl that I was dating was like not 5, but like 4'8", and weighed like maybe 110 pounds at the time. She's like tiny, tiny person. And I'm sitting here like, there's no way in hell that if she was pregnant, she wouldn't be showing like after, the initial 8 weeks. But, he said, all right, let's see if we can't figure this out. And then he just ran off. And I thought that this dude just literally just ran off, like, fuck you, bye. Like, well, shit. That's not good. So we're sitting there on the sidewalk. I'm getting ready to burst into tears, stressed out to, like, my wit's end. And so is she. And then this Lyft driver pulls up. This guy's sitting in the front seat, smoking a fucking Black and Mild, just chilling. Like, hey man, this guy down the street told me that y'all need some help. What's good? I'm like, oh shit, I don't know you, but this is the situation. And dude took us from Oakland to Concord, which is where we were supposed to be meeting this guy that we met on the train for work in Berkeley. We were gonna meet up with him in Concord, discuss whatever the business thing was, and then head to Berkeley to do the jobs. I'm pretty sure it was like trimming job or some shit for like some sort of small dispensary. But no, yeah, we ended up doing that, going to Concord, and we met the dude there. We talked to him, but there was a hitch. Like, I didn't have an ID, and the guy who ran the place, he was very, very adamant that everyone who stays in the hotel, unless they're a minor, has to have an ID, and I was very obviously not a minor. Like, and my girlfriend at the time looked like she could have been, but she was like 19 at the time, so, it's all weird from there. I was like 20, if even 20, maybe 20. I don't know, we might have been the same age, I don't remember. It's been a minute. But, no, yeah, so we go ahead and talk to this dude for like maybe 20 minutes, and he's not budging. He is not letting us, like, just come in, hang out with homie, talk shit through, and then figure out a spot to meet the next morning. He was starting to call the cops to get us off his property, which really sucked, I'm like, I'm not even in my 20s yet, or some shit, like, or just budding into my 20s, in a city I have never been in, on a side of the country I've never been in, trying to find some semblance of help. Well, none of that came that night, so we ended up with, like the 3 or 4 suitcases that we had, and we just ended up hauling it deeper into Concord, and we found this little church in like the center of the place, and this church had this really nice like obscured drainage ditch in it that had bushes all along the side, and the drainage ditch thing, whatever you want to call it, the canal I guess, was right next to the side of the church. So there's brick wall on one side and there's bushes on the other. So it was, good concealment. So we set up camp and lay down for the night. And like maybe, an hour and a half after we set up camp, this chick gets dropped off in front of the church. Like, out of nowhere. Just random as hell. And she's on something. At the time, I didn't know what it was, but after my travels and experiences with different people, I'm assuming she was, like, junked out, like, on some H or some shit, which is kind of sad, because you could see from the state of her expression and what she was crying about, she had just been the victim of something terrible. But I guess whoever dropped her off figured the church would take care of her. That was not the case. Shit. Sorry, I got distracted with the game. So no, yeah, so she was over there crying and tweaking out and whatnot, or fading out, I guess, nodding out, and sobbing and shit, and it kind of just scared the shit out of me, but I felt so bad for her. I ended up taking my pad and walking over and offering it to her, be like, hey, here, if you want, you can closer, we can group up, you know, be a little safer. I won't have to be like, you know, looking over your shoulder so much. But I'm guessing she was hyper paranoid after whatever she had just been. You could still see like the marks on her and whatnot. It was sad. It wasn't the first time I saw some shit like that either. It wasn't the first or the last, really. Berkeley got dark, but I didn't make it really to Berkeley to hang out for a while. What ended up happening was, we woke up the next morning to some of the church congregation waking us up, being like, "Hey, you guys mind fucking off?" Not in so many words, you know, but basically kind of like the vibe they gave us, like, "Hey, go away." I guess they weren't expecting the homeless to have come up that far or some shit. But yeah, no, we grabbed our stuff and we fucked off and we walked through one of the parks and saw this dude playing drums, and we sat down by him and talked to him for a little bit, hung out with him, explained to him our situation, and he told us, is like, what you want to do is you want to go to San Francisco. If you're trying to live here and trying to like get your life started and shit, go to San Francisco and go to the shelters and start applying for extended stays so you can get a job and then start looking for an apartment. It's like, alright, cool, that sounds simple enough, bet. So we take his advice and we go and get on the BART, which is the Bay Area Rail Transit System, the San Francisco subways. Then there's the Metro, which is the old trolley cars, which is actually really cool. Those things were neat. But we ended up taking the BART over for our first time, and we got to what was it, Dolores Street? No, it was like 23rd Street or some shit like that, right next to Dolores Park. And we took our stuff and we walked up to the park and we hung out for a bit, splayed out, you know, just relaxed, tried to get our heads right. And we ended up looking up homeless shelters in the area, and we found out that in order to get into any one of the, what was it, like 8 or 9 shelters in San Francisco, you had to go to one central shelter where they did all their like filing and data work and all that. You had to go there. Unless you had an extended stay, you had to go to this place every single day to get a room. Not even a room, to get a bunk bed in the middle of a room full of other people where I had like all my shit stolen. It was pretty shitty, especially since all my shit was all my shit. It was the whole life. It was what I had left from home, you know. At least most of my electronics, my wallet, and one of my suitcases went missing while I was in the shelters. So we took the time to learn how some of the system worked in that city, and tried to go through it. We spent about 2 weeks hopping in and out of shelters, well, staying in shelters, but we would wake up, we would gather our things, and we would leave the shelter by 6:30 in the morning, right? And we would have to be back to the central shelter where they assigned your beds by like, what was it, 2 or 3 in the afternoon or some shit. So you have, you know, X amount of hours from 6 or 7 in the morning to go and do whatever you need to do to get your day prepared. Well, being young kids who really didn't know how some of the shit worked in the city, we instead of like just hopping the BART and riding it to where we needed to go and not paying, because how are we going to pay if we don't have any money? We would walk everywhere, and we were doing that for a little, like maybe half a week before we figured out that they had like a homeless storage facility where you could go and keep 2 trash bags, like 2 contractor bags worth of shit. I mean, it was pretty simple. I had like 2 suitcases to myself, and she had one too. Or no, it was the other way around. One of my suitcases had been stolen. She had 2. I had 1 left. Well, all we needed was 2 contractor bags. All we'd do is just throw them in, throw the suitcases in the bags and set them on the shelves. But you know, that was how we did things for about the first week and a half, and we started getting all of our documents and shit in order and everything, all settled to start applying for extended stays, because you had to meet certain requirements. Like, you had to have applied for, what was it, like, state assistance, and you have to be assigned to like 2 or 3 different programs or some shit. And we had just aged out past the cusp of like the youth programs, so we had limited resources to do really anything. And as a result, you know, we kind of just ended up giving up on it. Like, it was kind of disheartening, to be completely honest.
Got enough?
It was honestly more than disheartening, because the shortest wait to get extended stay bed was
You like that?
up to what was it, fucking 9 months, if I remember correctly.
You like that?
9 months. 9 whole months to wait, doing the same wake up at 6 o'clock every morning routine, walk like 12 miles through the city to get to where you need to go. And yeah, it was just, it got ridiculous after a minute, because when you got assigned beds at this singular, the central shelter, they, there was no guarantee that you were going to get a bed that was honestly even within walking distance. I remember, twice we got assigned to this shelter that if you walked to it from the time that, the doors closed to the assignment center, I guess is what you could call it, the time that the doors closed was like 7 or 8. From the time that you walked there to the other shelter, which closed at like, what was it? I'm trying to remember for accuracy's sake. It was something like 11, 12 o'clock, but the shelter, walking the city streets from one end, from the main place to the other one, was about 12 miles, I think. So if you got assigned that shelter and you didn't have the city assisted bus pass thing, or a friend who was willing to give you a ride, or several other things, you're pretty well fucked. But no, yeah. So after fighting with the homeless shelters for so long, and after having some of my possessions stolen, like my phones and all that other shit, I just kind of gave up on it, right? We were at Golden Gate Park one day. We went up there for our first time because one of the old heads in the shelters told us about this place called Hippie Hill. And, you know, being 2 kids who like acid and mushrooms and all that other shit, we figured, hey, this is San Francisco. This is a place known for this kind of stuff. Let's go to Hippie Hill. Let's go check it out, right? That was a terrible fucking idea. It's like a death claw. But no, we're sitting there, hanging out. We walking up from H Street to Hippie Hill, and there's this guy. Oh, well, sorry, let me preface this with, we walk from H Street, right, into the Golden Gate Park entrance. There's this big pond right after the H Street entrance, and there's 2 trails that go around the pond, and at the back of the pond, the trails connect, and go through a tunnel. And you walk through that tunnel and you follow the road a bit. And when you come out, there will be this little tree to the right, and behind it is a hill. Something, yeah, honestly, something like this almost. Oh shit! Sorry, got distracted. But, nah, yeah, we come out. So we just kind of walk over and we're like, hey, cool, this is a nice tree. And we're sitting there, chilling. And on the hill, there's like, fuck, almost 100 hippies just sitting in this big ass drum circle, playing drums and dancing and doing all sorts of fun looking shit. And we're just chilling, watching them dance around and play drums and be hippies. We thought it was pretty cool. But nah, one of these guys is sitting off to the side, dressed like some sort of like hippie Mad Max almost. That's what he looked like. Like if Vikings dressed in burlap jackets and had face piercings, this was that dude. He looked like Ragnar Lothbrok if he smoked a peace pipe. But he come run up on us, and he leans down in front of us, and he points out the tree that we're sitting in. He's like, you know whose tree this is, right? And we're like, no. Whose tree? Like, are we sitting somewhere we shouldn't be? And he's like, no. It's Janis Joplin's tree. And I recognize her from the band Jefferson Airplane, right? I'm like, holy shit, no way. That's really cool. He's like, yeah, no, she sat here and wrote most of her music under this tree. I was sitting there thinking, huh, I haven't been here like an hour and I'm already kind of like immersing myself in a culture that I can totally get by, because I was raised with stuff like Pink Floyd and Jefferson Airplane and all that fun stuff. But no, yeah, so we're talking about that for a little bit. It's really cool learning about like the local history. Like we learned that Haight Street was like the Grateful Dead's main hangout and all that other stuff. It was really neat. And then he gave us acid. He was like, hey, so given y'all's interest, do you guys like do you take tabs? And we were like, yeah, why not? Why not, strange hippie man that we have never met before? Why don't we just eat your drugs, right? Why don't we do that? That sounds like a fucking brilliant idea. Well, for the sake of getting really, really high, it was pretty good. Pretty good. Stuff smacked me in the head real hard. I'll never forget looking up at the sun for a minute and realizing the sun is now a kaleidoscope. Like, do you remember the baby-faced Teletubby sun? That's kind of what I saw, but a lot more kaleidoscopy. It was terrifying. Like, I was like, okay, this hit way faster than anything I've ever had before, because this isn't my first rodeo with the stuff, right? Like, it's not my first time doing it. But, nah. Within like 5 to 10 minutes, I was seeing the baby kaleidoscope sun, and then I looked at my significant other at the time, and I was like, alright, so we should go now. And she's also at the point where it's not easy to function anymore like a normal person, so she's like, yes, we should. So we kept repeating between each other the bus number we had to take, and the stop we had to get off at, and the street address of the shelter. That was the only thing we said between each other the entire time, from Golden Gate to the shelter we were going to. And at this point, we had figured out, we can just hop buses if we get on the back of the bus while people are getting on. And most of the time, the bus drivers either don't notice or they see, like, oh shit, they're homeless, and they usually don't care, which was actually kind of cool with some of them. I made some decent friends with drivers. But, nah, yeah, dude. We got on the bus after this kid gave us some of this stuff, and we ended up, I ended up feeling like I had been swallowed by a giant snake. Like, I don't know how else to express what my mind's eye was seeing for me, but that's precisely what it was. I felt like I had been swallowed by a giant snake, and the snake was slithering through the streets of San Francisco, going down Van Nuys and all that. It was It was it was a bit of a mind fuck, not gonna lie. Well, we get back to the shelter, and I'm laying down, and the peak comes and goes. And the shelter bed that I was assigned for this particular day was actually a handicap bed, so it was its own little like cubicle where I was, in isolation, and nobody could really fuck with me. So I went and I laid down and I stared at the ceiling and tripped mad balls for like at least 6 hours. And then I got up and I went and talked to my significant other and asked her what she wanted to do, and she wanted to go get ice cream, so we went and did that. And ended up back at Golden Gate somehow, walking down the same path we were down earlier, and running into the group of kids that we had seen. The one that had given us the stuff, right? We ended up talking to him, and he had this group of other kids around him. They all looked and dressed kind of similar, and one of them referred to themselves as they referred to themselves as dirty kids. And that's when we got curious, right? Started asking them a bunch. Well, we ended up hanging out with them for a bit, and after talking to them for a while, they tell us about this gathering that's supposed to be happening. Actually, no. We don't even talk to them about that yet. They ask us where our backpacks are, and we're confused as hell. Like, what do you mean our backpacks? And, guy's like, well, if you live on the street, you need a backpack. And we explained to them that, nah, man, we're staying in the shelters. And they both, the two that were talking to us, both immediately looked at us like, no, get out of there. Like, that's some dangerous shit. Especially, like, her being as small and cute as she is, she's gonna end up getting stolen. And they said this shit to me, right? And what the oh, I wish I could play copyrighted music on Twitch. I would love to do like some heavy metal or some shit for that. Anyway, well, these guys start telling us about these horror stories from the shelters and whatnot, right? And we're both like, this doesn't sound like the place we were. This is right before I got my shit stolen. Right? And, well, that being said, we decided to go ahead and get some backpacks. We went to the place where we were storing our shit. I dug through what was left of my possessions, and I stuffed what I could fit inside the backpack, threw it on my back, took the rest of my shit, threw it in a dumpster. And that was the first day I slept on the street. First night I ever slept on the street. I'll never forget. We were at the park. I can't remember. Buena Vista Park, I think. It was at the opposite end of Golden Gate on the Haight. I don't remember what it was called. But, we were, in those woods up on the, hill. We found this bush that made kind of, almost cave. And we took a couple of Mylar blankets. I don't know if anybody knows what a Mylar blanket is, but it's the kind of material that they use to insulate like astronaut suits and whatnot. And they make super cheap survival blankets. If you ever have a survival kit like in your car or whatever, if you live somewhere like the mountains, make sure you have a Mylar blanket. It could save your life, trust me. It saved mine like twice, maybe 3 times. But either way, we found this spot on the side of the hill with this kind of overarching bush thing. And we wrapped it up in Mylar, and then we threw our sleeping bags down on the ground, and we slept there for our first night on the street. Next morning, we woke up, we cleaned up our little spot, we made sure it looked like nobody had ever been there before, and we went out to Buena Vista. I'm pretty sure that was the name of the park. I might have to Google it so I can be a little more accurate, but I'm pretty sure. So now, yeah, we're sitting out there hanging out, and we do this for like, 2 or 3 days. We're hanging out with these different traveling kids that come through Berkeley, or not Berkeley, but come through the Haight Street just to see like the travelers culture and whatnot. And It was really cool. We got to meet a lot of really nice tourists. I actually ended up doing a couple of like street gimmicks, like magic tricks and rune readings and tarot readings and all that crap. All of which I ended up trading off for other things. Like I traded my tarot card set for a canteen and a survival hatchet, like tomahawk thing that you could fold up, and it had a pickaxe on it too. It was really neat. It was super nifty, and it was hella useful when we made it to the woods in Oregon. Sorry, I need some water back. But no, yeah. So we just hung out on the hate for like, what, maybe a week before this new group of travelers comes in, all from what was it? Shit, I think Santa Monica. I think that was where they came from. I don't really remember the specificities of it, but I do remember that we were all hanging out. Oh shit, I don't like those things. But we were all hanging out, and one of these guys, and I kid you not, this dude's name, this guy's name was literally Shitmouth. We had like street nicknames we all went by, and that was his. And he called himself that. Like nobody gave him that name. He just called himself that, and it was such an ironic name because he was the nicest dude. Like he was the nicest person that we met on the entire time we were on the street. He was like one of those gold souls that's so rare to come by. He was an awesome guy. I hope one day maybe I can find him. I know he's a Seattle native, but that was the last I had heard anything about him. I remember we got in contact with his one of his relatives for a minute and heard that he had gotten off the street and he was doing good, and we were so elated to hear that because like he could freestyle rap to like literally anything. We had somebody that we ran into that played spoons, and someone who liked to play ukulele, some bongos people, stuff like that, and he'd just sit there and freestyle the whole time they're doing their shit. Actually be good, like, and he would be talking about shit that's going on. Like he would pull us into his songs and shit. It was just dope. Some of those street musicians, man, they are some of the more creative people I've met when it comes to the modern sound, so to say. Like there's a band that I met briefly when I was in Eugene, Oregon, called the Lost Dog Street Band, and I think they are still one of my favorite folk bands, like, of all time. But back to the issue at hand. Anyway, Shitmouth informs us that they all came up from Santa Monica to prepare to go down, or not go down, but go up to Oregon. They're going to Ashland, Oregon, to wait until seed camp for rainbow gathering. I didn't know what the hell any of that meant either. Trust me, it was confusing as fuck when they told me. But turns out there's been a group of people that get together and just throw a big party in the woods, more or less. I mean, kind of, more or less. There's like, it's a mixed bag, but the initial premise of the rainbow gathering was for veterans who came home after Nam and had nobody left. Like, had no friends, no family. They were ostracized because, they were conscripted to fight a war that wasn't theirs, and people hated them for it. It was kind of sad. But, it was really interesting to learn the history about it and see what it has become, because some of these people at this gathering, like people like me who were like the street druggies and people who just kind of scrounged to get by, we were rubbing elbows with millionaires, and it was all normal. Nobody acted like anybody was better than anyone else. We were all on the same page. It was actually kind of cool. But back to the premise. Sorry, there's a lot of exposition to my stories. I'm still trying to figure out how to get to the fucking point. Anyway, so this guy informs us about this thing. He tells us that, it happens every year. There's like 3 or 4 variant gatherings that happen all across the nation, but the main gathering happens in one of the 4 quarters of the United States every single year. So like if they have a gathering in the Northeast, like, then they'll have a gathering in the Southwest next year, and then in the Southeast, and then in the Northwest, and then so on and so forth. They follow the same kind of pattern. Sometimes they'll switch it up. It's not exact science, but what they'll do, at least from what I got, it being my first and only time to participate in the Rainbow Gathering festivities, from what they would consider the start to the very, very end. We went to Ashland from San Francisco with Shitmouth and fuck, what was that kid's name? I don't know. We'll call him Bob. From with Shitmouth and Bob, we went from actually. There's like one important thing that happened between then. We went from San Francisco to Arcata, and in Arcata, me, my significant other, Shitmouth, and God, Bob, whatever, Bob, we all ended up there hanging out in what we called the City of No, because Arcata, there are signs everywhere saying no sitting, no loitering, no smoking, no dogs, no this, no that, no other. Like anything that a street kid could have any relation to, there was a sign somewhere in the city saying no, bad, stop, don't exist. Well, we realized that within like the first 2 to 3 days and decided that it was best to vamos the fuck out of there as fast as possible. I don't know why I'm wandering around over here. There's nothing over here. We're gonna go grab and gulp. Okay. But, so, yeah, we ended up in Arcata for a day or two. Yeah, 2 days. The first day we were there, we spent the day trying to scrounge up some money, going and, pulling cans out of trash cans, and in California, just like Oregon, they're both kind of progressive in recycling and all that shit. So, they had these machines where you could turn cans and bottles and shit in for, like, pennies on the dollar kind of shit, recycling, giving you an incentive. That's what the 10 cents for CT or OR is on your cans, current rate of value or anything like that. Those machines pay you straight out instead of you having to go to like a scrapyard or some shit. Well, that's what we were doing. We were trying to get money together for a bus ticket to get from Arcata to Crescent City. So we were just running around the city all day. Kind of just pulling cans out of trash cans and selling them back to the manufacturer, I guess is the best way to put it. But we did that all day long, and then me and my girl at the time went for a walk, trying to find a spot to go sleep. And as we're walking around, we passed this house, right? Here we go. We passed this house, right? And we're just kind of walking, and we start to notice that there's like Christmas lights and shit on it. And then we like get a full view of it, and there's Christmas lights all around the front porch, which comes out like 12, 13 feet. It's got a sofa on one side, 2 recliners, and an old rocking chair. And there's Christmas lights all over the bitch, and there's a sign that says Humboldt Circus House, like right over the archway, I guess the awning, like right in the center of the awning. Humboldt Circus House. And we notice it, and we sit there and look at it for a minute, and we're like, hey, that's actually kind of cool. It's like a circus troupe lives here, right? Well, yeah, they totally do. And we didn't confirm it until later when we met back up with SM and Bob, and we were trying to find a way to get the hell out of there since the bus ticket money thing was not working out super well. We were having a bad time trying to get it all together. So we all sat at the freeway and tried to hitch our way out. Well, nobody had any success. Like, we sat there for 4 hours from like 9 p.m. to like almost 1 in the morning with no success. So SM and Bob decided to go up the freeway bridge thing and then go splay out up there, roll out their tarps, wrap themselves up, and go to sleep. Well, me and my girl were just chilling, right? Just sitting on that median right there at the on-ramp. Like, just fuck it, whatever. And down the street from us is this bar. Like, from where I'm standing, it's like over there where that big piece of metal is right there. We're just sitting here chilling, and we just hear, like, yelling. Just not bad, but yelling. Just loud-ass people coming out of the bar. And we're like, what the fuck? So we're sitting there watching them, and we're still holding up our thumbs and shit, and just kind of sitting on our bags watching these guys come out the bar. It's 2 dudes. And I guess one of them works at the bar, and the other one is a friend of his that comes in for drinks sometimes or some shit. Well, they do their little niceties things. They're really fucking loud, and the one dude walks down the sidewalk, and the guy that works at the bar comes walking towards us. And where we're sitting, like, the best way to put it is, here's us on the median, like right here. there's the bar over there, and then there's a road in between us. So this dude had to have been staring at us since he came out the building. But he sees us and he's like, "Hey, yo, yeah, you, come over here." So we go over to him and we talk to him for a little bit, and he's like, "Y'all look like you need a place to stay." And if alarm bells went off in your head too, mine were screaming at me. So we're like, "Yeah, maybe we'll sleep in like your backyard or whatever." He's like, "Oh no, don't worry about it. There's a free couch. Nobody's gonna mind." And we're like, "Okay, yeah, sure." So we walking with him down the street, and he starts leading us towards the circus house, right? We're like, "Wait a second," and then he crosses the street, and then we're at the circus house, and we're walking up. We go through the little gate thing. We walk through. We're walking up and come up to the porch, and there's these three guys. And then one's a juggler, the other one's a fire breather, and the other one swallows swords. And they're up there just chilling and talking, smoking Cuban cigars that one of the guys had gotten from one of his trips, his recent trip to Cuba. So we pull up on the porch with this guy who is also a juggler apparently, but he likes to do like swords and knives and shit. And we just sit down and chill with these guys for like a solid like hour and a half. They get me slammed the fuck up, drunk, and stoned off my ass. And we're just chilling, right? Well, this is something I learned later, but after I passed out on the couch, my girl went and decided to have some fun with those dudes that I was unaware of until certain things came out after paperworks and filings and all of that, and the breaking of the sacred and all the bullshit. The point is, I had a decent time until I found out later that these guys all banged my girl, and she did not say shit. I didn't know about it until after the divorce. Let's put it that way. Life has been cruel, but hey, we're still here, right? Anyway, so that all happens. I wake up the next morning. She's on the couch. I'm on the floor. And of course, I guess she woke me up and had me get off. But pack up, head out, and we spend today doing the same thing we did yesterday. Selling cans to make some money, asking people who look like they might be nice if they could help us get the hell out of this hellhole. And more often than not, people were willing to throw us some change, and that was nice. We were trying to get these bus tickets for, I think it was like a Greyhound or a Newton's or whatever their equivalent is over in Cali. Where's that vault at? I walked right by it. But, no, yeah, so we were just trying to get these damn bus tickets. And we ended up getting the money for one ticket. And Bob and SM ended up getting their tickets. And it was funny. Is, by the time we had the money, I guess I should have clarified that. We didn't have the physical ticket. We had the money for the tickets. But by the time we had the money together, the ticket office was closed. And being a hobo, you don't exactly have access to, like, instant bank accounts and all that shit. Especially not when all your shit was stolen, and your phone's gone, and yada 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 yada. Like, all of your valuables are gone. It's kind of difficult. But, no, yeah, so we're just hoping, right, that the last bus that comes in isn't gonna suck. Well, thing is, the guy that was supposed to drive us up there if we were able to get the tickets in the first place, he shows up and we talk to him for like maybe 5-10 minutes. We talk to him and we explain, our predicament, and he's like, if I have time, if I can, I will come back here after my last stop, which is way the fuck out of his way. Like, Arcata to Crescent City is, like 2-hour drive straight, something like that. So this dude was gonna drive his big ass bus all the way up to Crescent City, turn it around, come back, get us, and then go back to Crescent City. The only reason he had to do it like this is because if he did it on company time, he wouldn't be allowed to do it at all because he'd have to charge us. So he was like an owner operator of his own bus or some shit, I guess. But dude ends up going, and we're sitting there waiting. And he told us it might be like, 9, 10 o'clock before he can come back. I'm like, all right, that's fine. We were sitting out there waiting until almost 2 o'clock in the morning, and he pulls up. We thought it was a lost cause. We had all set up to go to sleep for the night, like just laying there at the bus stop and bus station. Sorry, we were just sitting there laying there, waiting for this dude to show back up, and he does. He does. He shows up. We were all like, "Holy shit! No way! No fucking way!" I can't imagine how much it must have cost him, especially in California, how much it cost him in gas to make that round trip just to come pick us up. It was the coolest thing. Well, we all got on the bus, and we all gave him, like, every penny that we had. And I don't think that amounted to maybe more than, like, $50, but whatever. He was super cool about it. It was awesome. And, why did I go away from the vault? I was going to go in there. I'm special. I guess I got distracted with my little story time. Sorry. But, no, yeah. So, home dude shows up. We're all absolutely blown away. How are you alive, lizard? What the hell? Dude, this is the terma lizard. But we all get on the bus, and he takes us up to Crescent City. He pulls into Crescent City's Safeway there that's like into a movie theater. And I think there might have been a Food Lion too. I don't remember. It's been a while. Like, this all happened back in like 2016, 2017. I don't really remember. But, drugs will do that to you. Anyway, he drops us off, and we're all looking around, kind of like what would be a good place to go sleep. And we end up going behind this place and finding these two dumpsters that are like maybe 10, 12 feet apart. So we lay down between those, which isn't a terrible idea as long as it's not trash day the next day, because then the dumpster guy might just think you're garbage bags, and that never ends well. That's happened, but we're not going that way. We're not going to the dark place right now. Not yet. But so we all set up camp, lay out for the night. And this was something that I learned the very hard way, was that when you're sleeping outside, somewhere visible to the common public, the best course of action is always sleep with your sleeping bag as a pillow. Because otherwise, what happened to me will happen to you. And you won't have a backpack when you wake up. Oh yeah, also, sleep with your fucking shoes on. Trust me. If you are ever homeless sleeping on the sidewalk, don't take your shoes off. Because I took my shoes off and I put them in my backpack. The only things I had when I woke up were literally this tiny little, I want to say it looks like one of those pillows you'd see in a museum where they put like a gem on it or something. All I had was that and my sleep and a piece of rope that just happened to be laying by. I don't know where this vault is. I'm not going into the radiated area, so screw that. Is there anywhere else to go? I guess we could go clear out Freeside. But, yeah. So when I woke up, I had a sleeping bag and a pillow. That was it. No shoes. No socks. No backpack. No food. No money. It was, kind of shitty. And it wasn't even that someone had come by and, seen a homeless dude just chilling, sleeping, and lean over this motherfucker. Because he would have had to have been no more than, like, 1.5 foot away from my head. Which scares the living piss piss out of me because my sleeping bag was right next, not my sleeping bag, but my backpack was literally right next to my head. And when I woke up, it was gone. And the only thing I could think of is, oh my god, if they had picked that up and just like slammed it on my head, I'd have been fucked. Like they had, you know, it was just some of the things you think about after you live through all this. It's like this guy could have killed me. He could have leaned down and just stuck me right in the neck with something. Like, that's terrifying. But it felt even more violating because you wake up and all of your earthly possessions, the last things that you own, the last semblance of, you know, your personhood as far as possession goes are just gone. The only thing I had that I lost that really just sent me into a frenzy was my journal. And it's not because, you know, oh my god, I'm never gonna be able to relive my first kiss or some stupid shit like that. Like, I had letters from distant friends, because I grew up as a military brat, so I kept in contact with what friends I liked and all that shit. And, you know, I had friends from letters. The last letter my grandmother, who had passed, written me was in that book. So, just trinkets and knickknacks, small gifts from people, things that were just gone. And it sent me into a blind rage. And for almost an hour and a half, 2 hours, I stormed around Crescent City like ghetto, demanding my shit back from that had shit that looked like mine. And I started to realize that my brain was kind of broken at the point. I mean, I realized this afterwards, but back to the point. Nah. So, yeah, I find out that someone's stolen my shit, right? So, I start looking around immediately for anyone or anybody, any person that may have had a hand in this. So, I go from where I am in the back of this Safeway movie theater thing into the woods behind it. Because into the woods behind it, you can clearly see, like, little tent houses almost that people have put up for themselves. And I go and do the absolute dumbest thing you ever could. I go out there and I start yelling at tents, being like, hey, come out here. I need to ask you a couple questions, this, that, and the other. It's like, I sound like a fucking cop. I'm pissed off. These people are, you know, having a hell of a time already. They're living in a tent house thing that they built out of pallets and fucking tarps. You know, that's a fucking rough spot to be in the first place. And then they got me out there fucking yelling at everyone, trying to figure out, hey, who stole my shit? Like, where is my journal? This is all I want. Yada, yada, yada. Well, that actually goes way smoother than you'd think. I check all these little tent houses and shit behind the Safeway. There's nobody. There's just these ramshackle, lean-to structures all over the place, and there's no one in them. Like, there's barely even a trace of anybody being in them recently. It's kind of eerie. But, make our way around the front of the store, and at the front of the store, I see two train hopping kids, and I could tell, like, immediately that these kids were train hoppers, especially when they have, like, FTRA tattoos on their knuckles and shit. You know, and if you don't know what FTRA means, Freight Train Riders of America. Well, I walked up to these kids, and I don't know what line of thinking or reasoning I had to be as aggressive as I was, but I started asking them all sorts of questions. I'd be like, have you seen somebody come through here with, like, a fucking backpack, this, that, and the other? Like, just grilling into these kids. And this shitmouth, this motherfucker come over, and he's so fucking smooth. He smoothed that whole situation out, because these kids were ready to, like, beat me to death. And I was ready to go swinging. So, like, he comes over, and he just pulls everybody's heads out of their asses at the same time. And all of a sudden, we're all cool, and these kids are giving us a ride out of here. So, like, okay, cool. Fed. Well, they,
I'll find you.
They end up, giving us a ride out of Crescent City. But before we leave Crescent City, we stop at this gas station right on the outskirts of town. Like, on the way out of town. And we get out of the van, we're all piled out, standing there talking to each other and whatnot, smoking a cigarette, waiting for them to pump their gas and shit, get their stuff together. And this dude This dude comes walking up, and he's got this little box in his arms, and he's wearing my fucking shirt. This dude stole my shit. This dude's walking up. He's got my alien tie-dye shirt on that I know I bought back in Long Beach from like a custom tie-dye guy. Like, he was actually really cool. I wish I still had his info. But
Are you okay?
he had my shirt. He had a pair of my pants on. He had the pencil box that I handmade, so I knew it was mine. He had all my shit. And I stopped him, and I asked him, "Hey, where'd you get that shirt?" And as soon as I asked him, "Where'd you get that shirt?" once again, Shitmouth saves the day. He comes out of the left corner and knocks this dude straight out. Like, cold cocks him. And he stops me, and he looks at me and is like, "Nope, that's all that needs to happen." Usually I'm not one for stooping that low, but he stole your shit while you were sleeping, man. It's fair game. If he's going to be that low of a piece of scum, I'm going to go ahead and stoop to his level, right? So the dude gets knocked out. I reach down. I open up the box. I pull out a set of ivory dice that was left to me by a relative of mine. And,
Evening.
Over here!
sorry. I like shooting Otis. He's an asshole. Anyway, I pull the dice out of the box. I grab a couple of pencils and whatnot, because at the time I'm still doing art and whatnot. And, I just kind of move on. We leave him laying there. We hop in the van. And we ride up to Arcata, or to Eugene. We go from Crescent City to Eugene, Oregon. And when we get to Eugene, Oregon, we stop, take a break, and we walk around the city for a bit. I ended up picking up a bucket, like a 5-gallon bucket that I used to keep my sleeping bag rolled up in, along with my tiny little pillow. And at this point, I still have no shoes. Like, I do not have shoes.
Have you seen?
That's great and whatnot. But, we end up going from there to Ashland. Ashland was like one of the next major points of my journeys. I absolutely loved that town. I wish I had not been a homeless piece of shit when I lived there. And I'm not saying that homeless people are shit. I'm just saying I was a piece of shit that happened to be homeless at the time, living in Ashland. And I tell you what, man, if there's a place anybody should ever go see besides like the Redwoods, obviously, in America, Ashland. Ashland is a beautiful town in, I believe, Southern Oregon, right off the 5. I want to say 5. But, no, yeah. We ended up there, and we hung out with Shitmouth and Bob for a while we were there. And about a weekend, no, it was like a couple days after that, Shitmouth ended up leaving from Ashland to go on his own little journey. He was leaving with a group of people early to go to the Rainbow Gathering. And we were like, alright, cool, we're going to stay here and hang out in Ashland for a little bit longer because this place is awesome. I love it. Apparently Willie Nelson has a house there. I don't know if it's true or not, but I think it's whimsical to think of the fact that I could have been in the same area as a legend like that. But, no, yeah, we were hanging out there for a bit. And, one day, me, my significant other, Bob, and this guy we met named Sol, like S-O-L, like the sun in like Latin. We were hanging out with this group of like 4 or 5 other kids, and we all wanted to roll the longest blunt possible. Like, we did too. We rolled a decently long one. It come out to be about like 1.5 feet long. It was kind of ridiculous. But, no, we did that. We smoked that thing up. And sure enough, we were laying on this little, like, alcove thing. It was all mulched out, chilling. And we passed out. We all just passed the fuck out. Like a group of 8 kids just laying here. And we woke up maybe an hour or 2 later to one of the park cops being like, "Hey, so you don't have a camping permit. We're going to give you a ticket." So all 8 of us got tickets for quote-unquote camping without a permit. We're homeless, dude. This isn't camping. This is literally sleeping. Like, I wish we were just LARPing, but whatever. I mean, yeah, of course, if you really want to boil it down, it was my choice, but at the same time, I was not going to sit there and fight the homeless shelter system. Especially not in San Francisco. Once you find out what that city's like, I'm glad I left, and I'm glad I lived on the street instead of trying to succumb myself to all the stupidity that is the normal. It's kind of bad. Like, I remember thinking to myself, how could people be so backwards? But nonetheless, you know, maybe I'm the one in the wrong. Doesn't really matter when you think about it. But no, yeah. So we were all woken up by this cop, and he gave us all tickets. But Bob, our good friend Bob, that had been with us from fucking San Francisco, come all the way up there with us from San Francisco, Mr. Shitmouth. Bob had warrants where Bob came from, and so they searched Bob. Now, Bob had something in his possession that no one was aware of. And it's not even something that we would have thought of him having, or let alone anybody. Like this, he had a stick of, like a debt, he had a debt charge, like a detonation charge. Like, apparently, I guess, somewhere along in his travels, he was walking down an abandoned railway track or some shit, and he found some debt charges that they'd never set off. So, Tom being... Yeah, Tom! That was his name, Tom! Holy shit! Tom! It wasn't Bob, it was Tom! Fuck! Wow, that was really not that complicated to remember. Just ignore that. Anyway, this Tom guy, he had a stick or two of dynamite and the fucking detonator. And we were just... Like, they pulled this thing out of his bag and looked at him and then looked at all of us, and everyone in the group besides him just absolutely awestruck. Because the ones who knew. The other ones were just kind of like, bro, is that what I think it is? They just looked, the cops looked at him like, what in the holy fuck were you doing with a stick of dynamite, kid? And the thing to set it off. Like, his whole explanation to them was, well, I kind of just found it one day, man, and I figured, you know, it looks pretty old, it's been here for a while, I can imagine it's probably no good no more. Well, hopefully he was right. I mean, I don't know if the cops took that thing and, like, put it in an evidence locker or disposed of it properly or whatever. Everybody's still dead here. Nobody's responded. But, no, yeah. Dude had a fucking stick of dynamite. Just chilling in his backpack. And he didn't even tell the cops when they searched him either. They were just like, dude, are you fucking for real? You've got to inform us of this kind of shit. Like, come on, man. But, no, yeah, so Tommy Boy ended up getting carted off to jail, and we never saw him again, so assuming that he probably got charged pretty heavily for being in possession of high explosives, you know. Because that actually makes sense. He shouldn't have those. But, no, yeah, that went down. And then, I ended up getting kicked out of a church there because, I was raised in a church-going family, and it was pretty rough in certain spots. But the worst of it really came while I was at this particular incident. I went to this place to try and, get some food, rations I would call them, fucking blocks of ramen noodles and other shit that you kind of have to cook to eat, but not really. But you're homeless, so options for cooking things are like maybe a 7-Eleven microwave, if the 7-Eleven happens to have one and also happens to allow you to use it. You know? Kind of shit. But, no, yeah, I was there and they were trying to, quote-unquote, pray over me, right? And it just kind of triggered some bad memories, and I flipped the fuck out. Not my proudest moment, but it happened. Nonetheless, it happened. But yeah, no. Ashland was an absolutely beautiful town. I found some really cool rocks there that I ended up selling to some tourists and making wire wraps out of and whatnot. But, one night, the night that we left, oh no, There was one other night that something interesting actually happened. Me and me and this guy that I met, another street artist. Me and him were taking doses one night, and we were tripping, like, hard. I think we sat and stared at the moon at one point for like maybe an hour and a half, just anyway, well, we were walking down one of the streets in Ashland near the recycling plant, and near the recycling plant there's this massive hill that has this like stupid steep slope, and we're just sitting over here chilling, and then out of nowhere we just hear like the rattling of shopping carts. Like, holy hell, it sounds like an earthquake full of just shopping carts. And we see these 4 dudes with these shopping carts. They had taped, zip tied, whatever the fuck together. It was a train of like 5 or 6 shopping carts coming down the fucking hill, and all the shopping carts were packed fucking full of crushed cans. And like, there was one dude in the front kind of just like holding on to the front, like his back was to us, and he was steering with his feet and shit. And there was 2 on the sides trying, I guess, holding it down, and then there was the guy at the very back just kind of, I don't know, keeping it from flying off. But these guys came racing down the fucking hill at least like, I don't know, 25, and just and me and this dude, we're just sitting here looking at each other like, what the fuck did I just see? Because you gotta keep in mind, me and this guy are on like mind-altering substances at this point, and this just circus sideshow shit just happened right in front of us, and we're like, what the fuck? What the fuck? Okay, whatever. Well, yeah, no, that was one of the more interesting things. There was also one time we were all camping out at one of the cooler churches there. Like, not the one I got kicked out from, but the one that does like homeless outreach and shit there. Not the one, another one that does homeless outreach. I have such a large vernacular, but no real way to use it. My brain skips beats. Sorry if it's hard to follow. But no, he was hanging out, you know, just chilling, and then one of the tweakers in the group got into a fight with one of the junkies in the group, and the tweaker ended up beating the junkie's teeth into her throat, and the cops got called, and the church people were like, y'all can never fucking sleep here again. And we're like, yeah, that's understandable. That makes sense. I'm not upset about that. I wouldn't want to come and have to pick teeth off of my fucking doorstep either. That would kind of suck.
Did you know
But,
all stirred up lately?
What was that for?
I don't know what that was for, I'm not gonna lie. But, oh yeah, that's about all the interesting shit that really happened there.
No! Murderer!
Getting kicked out of like 2 churches, and then watching a train of recycling idiots just shoot down the hillside. That was pretty fun. But we left Ashland and we headed up to Eugene, Oregon. And in Eugene, I don't think I killed this man. But in Eugene, Oregon, we just kind of chilled out for the night. I got to practice hopping a train. I hopped on it as it was leaving, and then I jumped the fuck off of it, and then I waited and did it again with like 2 more. That was kind of like my trial run, making sure that I could count the lugs, and I had the right speed, and I knew how to like throw my weight into the fucking thing, because that's like half of the battle there. It's throwing your weight over into the car instead of allowing your legs to get sucked underneath the train. And I saw that happen. That's terrifying. And that's when I decided I don't want to be a train hopper. I'm just going to hitchhike. I don't want to lose my legs. I knew a guy, and he unironically called himself Hopper because he had lost both of his legs and had like those sprinting blades in place of them. I thought that you had to be like some sort of super rich guy to get those, and I'm not entirely wrong. They're expensive as hell. But Hopper was like a by choice homeless person. Like, he had a successful career. He could totally go and get his own place and have his car and all that other fancy shit. But his logic was, I live in the city. Why the fuck do I need a car? I live in the city. Why the fuck do I need an apartment? I can literally find just about anywhere I need to, as small as I am, to hide and sleep. And man wasn't wrong. He was only like 5'8". He could move with those little sprinting legs, though, man. I'll tell you what. Speedy Gonzalez. I'm sorry. But I'm not. Anyway. He, well, not him. But, Eugene. Eugene wasn't really, like, super special. Then we ended up back in Ashland for a bit. And we were only there for, like, maybe 2 or 3 days. And then we got picked up by this group of, like, 7 hippies in this van that maybe could resemble this if it was, like, 2 or 3 feet higher. It was basically just a brick. We got picked up in a brick. You know, the no windows, creepy, white van kind of crap. Yeah, it was sketchy as hell. But, these guys ended up taking us to, this lesser-known little spot up in the Oregon, woods called Terra Paratus. And they were some strange individuals. It was kind of like a trailer park, but if it was a commune, you know, if that makes sense. It was weird, really weird. But oh yeah, we stayed there, and the kicker was when we got there, you know, it looked like it was gonna rain, but then it cleared up. And then when we laid down and set up to go to bed, I had anticipated possible rain, so I wrapped my tarp over me while I was sleeping, only to realize that the spot I had picked apparently was like in the crevice, like right on the drip line of a bunch of trees. And when it started raining, it basically funneled all that water down the tree branches and between the leaves and whatnot directly onto the spot I was sleeping, which washed me out, like pushed me down the hill. And that's how I woke up, freezing. Like, oh my god, that was cold. That sucked.
Oh, it's... Talk to me.
Oh, Raul, you were a pain in the ass. But, oh yeah, we ended up there for a little bit, and then we went from there to another campsite where we were supposed to meet up with the people that were, like, setting up the gathering. We were supposed to find them for seed camp. But we missed them, and we found, like, literally found a note stapled to a tree. The shit was kind of weird. I felt like I was not in the real world for a minute there. But, they ended up taking that note, and they put in the coordinates, and then they found this... They ended up driving out of there, and another 2 hours into the fucking woods. And from there, we ended up meeting all the people for seed camp. Now, at seed camp, we were only supposed to be there for, like maybe a day or two, but we ended up there for a week due to complications with the location for setting the gathering. But in that week, we ended up staying in what they called the Section 8 housing, which is just a funny way of saying, hey, you don't have a tent. But no, yeah, we ended up there having to deal with all that. That was when I got to see one of the nastiest magic tricks I'd ever seen in my entire life. This girl we met was the how you say village peace pipe? Everyone gets a puff, right? Yeah, that sounds about right. Village bicycle, everyone got a ride. Well, this chick was the most disgusting person I've ever met in my entire life, and there's good reason why I made this stream 18 up, because I'm about to tell you something that will probably make you gag. Well, we were all sitting around the campfire one day, and I had eaten like maybe 2 or 3 grams of mushrooms, so I'm rolling. I'm just chilling in the woods with a bunch of homeless hippies, and all of a sudden, somehow people get onto the topic of like anal for some reason. I don't remember how exactly they leewayed themselves into this conversation, but in the midst of all this conversation, this chick, her name was Daydream. This chick pipes up and she's like, hey, you guys want to see a trick? I can do something really cool with my, my anus. And all the guys are like, oh, hell yeah, blah, 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 blah. Well, she asked for a cigarette. And, well, they obliged her. They gave her a cigarette. And at this point, I've already gotten up and kind of just walked into my rent-a-tent that I was going to be staying in for this duration of the seed camp. Well, I'm sitting in there, I'm laying down, I'm like, I'm just going to trip in peace. I don't want to deal with these crazy people. Well, I can hear it. I couldn't see it. This chick took that cigarette and shoved it up her ass. Yep, whole cigarette. Just right up the pooper. Right up the old chute.
I'm gonna clip your sorry ass.
And then proceeded to regurgitate it. And in doing so, it piqued the interest of one of the guys there that we were traveling with. That guy wanted it. No one bet him anything. No one gave him money. No one told him, "Hey, this is a good idea. I dare you." He said, "Let me see that." So she gave him it, right?
What the hell?
She gave him that cigarette, and he smoked it. The amount of gagging and coughing and choking and just unholy, just dry heaving sounds that came from the outside of my tent still kind of haunt me to this day. In fact, just the knowledge that happened within the vicinity of my existence makes me feel as though it's been tainted. Like, how can I ever, like, consciously be clean again? When I heard the, like, thorough description of somebody, not even their thorough description, the reactions and, like, the actions of the group of people who witnessed someone shove a cigarette up in their ass and watched another person smoke it. My only question is, how did you keep it lit? How? Was it dry? Oh. But yeah, that was one of the like two key things that happened while I was at this seed camp event. The next thing was my girl went off and rode around with these hippie folk for a little bit and come back like half naked, and I was kind of pissed off. And instead of like being a douchebag and making a scene, you know, I decided to go take a walk and kind of like blow off some steam before I had to, you know, talk to her about my issues with that. Well, I'm out there walking around in the woods. There's this trail that like just runs straight through the fucking woods, and I'm just walking down it, right? Just kind of fuming the fact that, you know, like, there's no sanctity in shit anymore. This bitch is probably cheating on me at this point, which, like I said earlier, was later confirmed. And I'm just having a day. I'm walking down this trail. I'm huffing and puffing. I'm rolling myself a cigarette, and I look up, and I just hear, and in front of me, maybe like 30, 40 feet down the trail, is a fucking brown bear. And I'm like, oh, great. And the only thing I could think to myself was, this bitch got naked and got me to get myself killed. Ain't that about a motherfucker? Well, I start stepping back. I start walking back. I don't know if he noticed me or not, but after I like backed up a good like maybe, what, 10, 11 feet backwards, I spun around and went into a dead sprint. And the thing about it, you know, I grew up like an athlete. I was running all the time. I was on the crew team. I did track for a little bit. I played baseball, all the fun shit. Except I was like an emo kid when I was in high school. So all of my sports and shit like went straight out the window when I hit high school, and everyone fucking hated me. It was kind of funny. But nah. I'm in a dead sprint away from this bear, and I'm running so fucking fast that my legs come out from underneath me. And instead of like doing what you would expect and like face planting super fucking hard, I just slide on my knees. And by slide on my knees, I mean like, if like I felt like what was her name? Fuck, I don't remember. The chick from Mirror's Edge, like wee, or literally any lice. Wow, my dyslexia just smacked me. I was gonna say ice level, not lice level. What the fuck? But nah, yeah, I slid out of the entrance of the wood, like just barely out of the entrance of the woods, and like right next to the camp, and people saw me, and I was sitting there huffing and puffing and breathing like a maniac, and they're like, "Oh, the fuck? You okay?" And I explained to him, so, you know how there's like bears in the mountains and stuff sometimes? Yeah, I think there's one back there. And they're all like, "Oh, shit." Well, I mean, we don't really have to worry about him. We're making a shit ton of noise over here. He's probably just curious. And there's enough people that he will run. I understand the logic, right? I know what they were trying to tell me. And yeah, I can see how you might think that. But if I was a bear and I walked through the clearing and I saw a bunch of shirtless, skinny, hippie motherfuckers, do you think I wouldn't want to eat one of them at least? Just give it a shot? Like, they're scrawny. I like... Good timing. But, nah, dude. That shit scared the hell out of me. And it's all as a result of me trying to go on a walk to not be an asshole and, like, start yelling at people. That makes sense, right? Like, that's what I get for trying to be mature about the situation. I shit my pants and then run faster than my legs can handle and almost break my face on a tree or some shit. Good times. Well, it doesn't... The embarrassment and, again, the running to almost break my leg shit doesn't stop there either. Because, after seed camp, we ended up traveling to Malheur National Forest up in the high desert in like the middle, maybe northern part of Oregon. Well, we go here, and this is where the rainbow gathering is going to be. It's fucking awesome, but we're here first. Like, our group and 2 or 3 other of the main, like, council people that run this thing, they're all here. So our job is to help clean up the area and prepare for the gathering. And that went great, honestly. That went great, except for the first day that I was there. These weird hippie motherfuckers, like, basically what happened was we set up camp right outside the van we're all traveling in, and I don't remember what happened. I think my girlfriend was flirting with one of the dudes from one of the other fucking caravans, and duh, I got jealous, duh. So I started walking away from the gathering. Not because I was leaving, but because, again, I like to walk in the woods, clear my mind. Well, I'm doing that, and I've got my shit with me, and she's drawing the conclusion that I'm leaving. Obviously, it looks like that, but she stops flirting with this dude to chase me down this dirt road that's covered in rocks and whatnot. She's barefoot, I'm barefoot. She's running up on me. She clings onto my backpack like a lost, like, kitty coming out of the fucking floods or some shit, and as a result, ends up ripping my back. But, she ends up ripping my backpack off of my back, along with my jacket that I was wearing at the time. And she's holding on to my shit in such a way that it's easier for me to just let go of my backpack and keep moving. So I've got my arm hooked around one of the straps and the other one's off. She's holding on to it. And I just let go, right? I just release my backpack. And she falls down to the ground with it. And then she, like, scuttles forward like fucking Zoidberg, like, grabs my ankle and starts she doesn't drag herself. I drag her as I'm walking, like, dude, fucking let me go. Let me just go walk. No. Sure enough, that wasn't happening. So, so I just kept walking. I didn't do anything crazy, but she ended up, I guess, losing her grip or something at some point, and she fell off my foot. And from where we were standing, and this was all happening, it did not look good. Like, it looked to these people like I had hauled off and, like, tried to tee her fucking head off like a football quarterback. Like, it looked apparently like I had reeled back and kicked her, but thankfully, she wasn't the kind of cunt to lie about shit as far as that went. And, no, she was like, no, that was all me. That was all me. But that happened. She explained all that shit to him after I had walked away and then walked myself into the woods. Because when I turned around after I heard some yelling and shit after she let go of my foot, I turned around and there was like a group of 12 dudes. And I'm tall, right? I'm tall, but I am I'm not a bodybuilder. I am a twig. I am a skinny person. And I see 12 kind of burly, fat hippie guys like, hey, what the hell? So they're following me into the woods, and I just kind of turn on my 12-year-old like instinct and disappear. I ended up like retracing my footsteps 2 or 3 times, make some false trails, just kind of poof, disappear. And then I sat on a log in the middle of a clearing and waited and watched. And sure enough, like 20 minutes later, 2 of the guys that I knew in the group that were natives, straight off the Navajo reservation, they come tracking my footprints through the woods. And I, you know, I'm a native myself, and I thought it was pretty funny. But it's like, oh goddamn, they're gonna find me. No, they fall. But they followed 2 sets of false footprints before they figured out we don't know where he went. They started yelling for me and shit. But I came out and I talked to him. I was like, they're not gonna like flay me alive when I go back to camp, are they? No. Your girl explained everything. You're good. It just looked really bad. No, I didn't know what they meant by that. And then, you know, obviously, hey, elaborate. What the hell are you talking about? It looked like you tried to, you know, kick off. Apologize. It's wired. I don't know what the fuck that's about. I tried to use her head for soccer practice or some shit. Just one good stroke, so to say. And no, that wasn't the case at all. Thankfully that was cleared up, because when I came back, I had some of the dirtiest looks I had ever seen. And I'm somebody who grew up with a not so great home life situation, and that kind of shit I saw once in a while. Not often, but once in the bluest of moons. When Dad drank enough of the angry juice. Right? You know, whatever. But, nah, yeah, man. So, the guy, Peace was his name. Peace. He pulls me off to the side, and he starts talking to me about gypsy culture and tradition and whatnot, which is another part of my lineage, because I guess God just had to make a muppet of all the mutts. That's me. But, he pulls me aside and he starts talking about like our Irish gypsy traditions and shit like that. And he goes to shake my hand, but then he turns my hand to where my palm's facing up, right? And then he drops his cigarette in my palm and slams his hand on top of that cigarette and shakes my hand for a minute. And I'm sitting there like, God damn it! What the fuck? Why are you burning my fucking skin? And then he's talking about some sort of like mark of honor or some crazy shit. It turns out like, you know, what? Maybe a week later, it came out that we had this kid in our caravan with us who was like maybe 17 at the oldest, 15 at the youngest. It came out later that old Peace was given a little bit of love, you know what I mean? And what's doubly kind of fucked up is the kid was trans, so she did not have the proper equipment to function like that, and as a result, there was a lot of noticeable bleeding by others, should I say. It raised a lot of questions. But, that's fucked up. But, nah, man. So, yeah, Peace turned out to be a giant piece of shit. Right? Ironic that the guy named Peace is a fucking douchebag. There was another dude in the group that was really close friends with Peace until after some of that shit came out. His name was Treetop. That guy was he was a raging alcoholic, but not the kind that, you know, like beat his kids and strangled his wife. He was just a dude who drank too much too early on, and like he woke up. I remember one day he woke up and we thought he was gonna die because he had the shakes so fucking bad. He started like leaking blood out of his face and shit. Cirrhosis of the liver is a terrifying thing. But, nah, nonetheless, you know, carried on. The beginning of the gathering was an absolute shit show. And, I kinda regret half of what happened. I don't really regret most of it, though, looking back on it. Because that was also the first time I ever took a, what they call a 10 strip. And that, my friends, that was an adventure. because that's also the first time I've ever had any sort of guy-on-guy experience, and that scared the fucking shit out of me. And that's how I know. I know it's not for me. More power to you if that's your kick, but I tried. It didn't work. It did not work. We're not going into details, but that did not work. Scared the fuck out of me. Why can't I? Can I? Come on. Nope. I can't climb the pipes. Okay. But, no, yeah. So the beginning of the gathering was an absolute shit show. After we left the parking lot, which is where we set up our first camp, we went into the woods, and we found the camp that was at the utmost, like, very back of the gathering. It was called the Aloha Camp. There was actually 4 Aloha camps that year. It was kind of funny. But, all the people who named their camps Aloha were people from Hawaii. It's actually really funny. Like, and only one of them was an actual, like, Hawaiian islander. The rest of them were paler than me. Which isn't saying much. I'm kind of whatever. Point being, you know, we found this camp, and we kicked it there for pretty much the whole duration of the gathering. The gathering itself was an event that only really supposed to last, like, maybe a week or two. But the prep and the setup for, like, seed camp and starting and all that other shit, it's like maybe a month and a half to 2 months almost. Not to count, like, the cleanup afterwards. And there's a shit ton of news reports and whatnot on, like, you know, the effect that the Rainbow Gathering has on the local, I think the local economy as well, but the local ecosystem. Like, there's some places where they've damaged it irreparably, and there's other places where they've, you know, left it looking better than when they got there. It's just a mixed bag of people. It's not a set organization. There's no real leadership structure. It's just kind of whoever takes charge at the moment. That, and, you know, people all live different lives, so the people who run the thing, it changes just about every year. But it definitely was an interesting event. Either way, during the gathering, they ended up doing these pirate games is what they called them, and every camp had a flag that was handmade, right? Like, you know, hand painted and all that other shit, hand stitched. Some of them tie-dyed their shit. It was a bunch of creative types. It was really cool. But they played pirate games, and what that was is whichever camp could steal the most flags from the other camps was, like, the winner of some sort of, like, free cleanup or whatever. Like, the camp didn't have to clean their shit up at the end of the gathering. Someone else was going to take care of it. It was just some arbitrary prizes to make people's lives more interesting and easier. But we ended up hanging out at Aloha Camp for a while, and I ended up participating in the pirate games one night. And by participating in the pirate games one night, I literally mean I single-handedly went through and stole every camp's flag. Because I have practiced for many years the art of fading into the background. I grew up in a military family as, like, an ostracized child. It really was, like, second nature. Especially when, you know, one of your parents' jobs is semi-special forces. Like, baby special forces. That's what you'd call it. Airborne? Yeah. They've got to be kind of special to do it, though, from the people I've met. But, no, yeah. So, one night I decided to participate in the pirate games, and I went through every camp. I had a little drawstring bag, like those vinyl ones you get from, like, going to random events and shit. The little vinyl drawstring bag that you, like, if you folded a pillow up in half and shoved it in there, it would barely fit. Well, I took that, and I had this this butterfly knife that I had actually traded somebody for. It was pretty neat. It was a golden butterfly knife. I learned a lot of tricks in the week that I was there, dealing with that shit. But I took that butterfly knife and the drawstring bag, and I put on my darkest set of clothes that I had, which, like, everything I wear is pretty much earth tones, so it wasn't that hard. But I'd just walk up to the camps. I'd walk around, see who's paying attention, who's not. I mean, in one case, I ended up tying a bunch of bells together that I got from one of the traders at the trade circle they had. Like, a bunch of little, like, the bells you would get like on a cat's, you know, collar or some shit. I took like 5 or 10 of those and I tied them all together and I hung them from a tree and had a piece of fishing line attached to them that I would just yank on to get them to jingle. Well, I set that up and lured the people over where I wanted them, and then ran through and sliced the flag off of its ties, throw it in the fucking drawstring bag, and then move on. I made like maybe 10 of those little bell things and used every single one to get a flag. But by the end of it all, there were I think maybe 20, 25 different camps there. And I got at least 2/3 of the flags in one night. Just kind of walking up and cutting them off. It's pretty fun. But oh yeah, went through all that. Got back to the camp and showed Tig, the guy who was running the place. I showed him that the haul. He was like, "Holy shit, this is the most I've ever seen in one run. God damn, dude, what the hell were you doing?" You know, sneaky. That's my secret. That's sneaky. There you go. But yeah. So we ended up hanging up all those flags, like, what, maybe 30, 40 feet above the ground so people couldn't get at them. Tig was by trade a tree climber. He actually lived on the island in Hawaii, and he was one of the people who went around and cleaned up like palm trees and shit, which is kind of funny because I specialize in growing those now. Fan palms, needlepoint palm, palm. Working on growing corn here too soon, but so no, yeah, it was a really neat experience. They made a fucking pizza oven out of rocks they found laying around and mud. We made a like a fire pit with like almost couch built into it that we could put our sleeping bags on, like a shelf. Put our sleeping bags out on and lay on it and whatnot, and keep the fire like just warm enough to keep us warm, but not hot enough to melt the sleeping bags. Because the last thing you want while you're sleeping in a polystyrene, polyurethane, or whatever the fuck the hell the goddamn material's called, and a poly material, something that's made out of petroleum, the last thing you want is that shit to catch on fire. Because you become a burning sock real fucking quick. It's terrifying. There's a few instances of this happening to people, and it's heartbreaking to see the results. But, you know, that's the life. That's what happens when you live homeless. Scary shit. But no, yeah. So yeah, the gathering went pretty well. I got my first tattoo there too. I traded, what was it? I think it was a cutlery set that I had found at the trade circle. I traded that to this guy for him to give me a tattoo. And he freehanded the whole thing. It was actually pretty neat. But he did the Grateful Dead Steal Your Face, the skull logo that they have with the Jerry bolt in the middle. That's 13 bolt, whatever you want to call it. He did that. It was pretty neat. It made me pretty happy as a almost paying customer, you know. He did it so perfectly though that you could fit like a Kennedy $50 directly in the circle for the thing. But nah, yeah, from like early August to right at the end of July, we attended the Rainbow Gathering. It ended like July 7th or 8th of 2017 in Malheur National Forest in Oregon. And after that, we stayed for maybe 2 weeks to help clean up. Like, go around, pick up cigarette butts and tiny little pieces of trash. They call it micro trashing, where you go around and you just pick up all the tiniest pieces of trash you can find. Yeah. They actually cared a lot about what they were doing. Not a lot of them did, but the ones who did care cared a lot. I also remember meeting a man with a dog named Goat. That dude was cool as hell. I think his name was like Terry or something. Terry the Terrier or some shit. He was a funny dude. But yeah. And yeah, the Rainbow Gathering was a weird mixed bag of things, man. A lot of A lot of weird shit happened there. If anybody ever has any questions about them, please drop them. I don't really know where to start or even really finish. After the Rainbow Gathering, we went back to San Francisco though. I think that's the part of the story I'm gonna end off on. You know, I think I'm gonna go ahead and reset stream and then start working on the Old World Blues. If anybody stopped by and was slightly entertained by my walk down memory lane. I don't know why I decided to do this. I guess it's kind of like an audio journal. I don't have the interest of writing an actual journal, but at the same time, you know, it's kind of like, who knows, someone might enjoy these stories. And eventually one day maybe I'll sit down and actually like edit shit together and write it all out and plan out the whole big conversation. But in the meantime, I'm still new to this shit, so expect poor, shitty quality and bad gameplay. I appreciate anybody who stopped by, and I will see y'all in a bit when I come back to start Old World Blues. Again, thanks for stopping by. We'll be back.